Good morning to one and all gathered here. And I think today we will be having a great, happy learning session. I would like to request my student Pratiksha to give a brief introduction about our guest, Prashant Kumar sir.
Good morning to one and all present here. It's a great honor for me to introduce and welcome our speaker. He is none other than Mr. Prashant Kumar, who is an automotive homologation consultant of Harita Technologies to this webinar session. He is an accomplished person who has more than 7 years of experience in automotive electronics and management system, electric vehicle charging technology, and so on. He has also several works to his credit. Besides, he is supporting the clients on the certification of components and vehicles, and he coordinates testing activity at ARAI, ICAT, GRAC, and maybe many other agencies of the current era. He has worked as head of operation in DC Energy Private Limited and as a senior associate trainer in device electronics. He has ignited every mind that dared to dream. He has experience in electric three-wheeler development, power transmission, and so on. On behalf of all gathered here, I welcome you, sir, to this webinar session on electric vehicle trends.
Yeah. Good morning, one and all. Good morning, everyone present here. And that's a very good, overwhelming participation. I'm seeing around almost 180 participants here. So thank you for such a warm welcome. And I will assure you some good learning during this time which was given to me. So good morning, welcome everyone once again. So ma'am, shall I present my screen, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Over to you now.
Yeah. So today, let us not make it as a general presentation that people generally make, but let us try to put it more interactive. And I'll try to when electric vehicle comes into picture, there are so many questions that comes. And so being from being in touch with academic people from a very long time, I know what type of questions generally people ask, and I'll be generally 99% I'll be able to answer those questions. And feel free to ask as many questions in this webinar, and try to make it more interactive, right? And so I think as people are able to see my screen.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes. So today's topic, which I believe I have given to ma'am, was electric vehicle trends and opportunities, right? So instead of learning before anything more detailed about these electric vehicles, so we should know why actually we should as a country like India should focus on this electric vehicle, and what is that actually pushes not only in India, in other European countries and American countries also doing the same. But what is that actually pushing this electric vehicle trend? So that is something which is very important, the core root important thing that everyone should know before taking up this thing. And second thing is generally electric vehicle, this particular topic is being understood as something it is relevant to EEE department, or something it is relevant to ECE department, right? So but it is not the case. So today, no particular field is actually focused on particular EEE or ECE. Today it's completely interdisciplinary. So every aspect, every field knowledge is to be required and to be applied. And when you take electric vehicle is a field where you find work for EEE, ECE, E&I, mechanical, automobile, production, manufacturing, so chemical engineering. So you have almost all the fields of engineering comes into the electric vehicle as an application. So this is such an application where you can apply any engineering knowledge, right? And that's what makes this particular topic very interesting. And let us see in what are all the ways things the engineers have their role. And first, we will not directly go into some technical topics. First, let us understand the market behind this. Because when you start working on any project, any kind of project, we should always see whether that project is having any benefit, right? So on this perspective, so first you have to understand the Indian automotive industry. That is very much important. So before going into, before anyone, if anyone discussing about electric vehicle, some people are saying, I have heard many people telling me, commenting me in negative words that electric vehicle will never come to India, electric vehicle will not suit India. So much of, there are some questions to be answered here, right? So let me put some points here. If you see this Indian automotive industry trend, you can see nearly India is actually largest in many things. So we are the largest tractor manufacturer, we are the largest two-wheeler manufacturer in the world, and we are second largest bus manufacturer. So many largest. So we are the Indian automotive industry in terms of manufacturing, it is very largest. And if you see the trend, the vehicle trend, India's total automotive market share, 80% is with two-wheeler. That is a very notable thing. 80% of the vehicle which is sold in India is actually two-wheeler segment, and nearly 13% is with passenger vehicle. That is what we call cars, and 4% goes for commercial vehicles, something like Tata Ace, trucks, buses, light commercial vehicles. All this comes into these 4%, and your three-wheeler autos, auto rickshaws, those are all coming under the 3% of market share. So nearly 80% it is, even though India is developing in a very faster rate, still now we have a huge population of middle class people who use the two-wheelers for their daily commute. So nearly 80% of the vehicle share is coming from the two-wheeler segment. And that's a very important thing. So whoever tells that electric vehicle may not suit in India, so you have to think about this market share before giving such words. So this is something very notable thing, that, and two-wheeler is something which we use for daily commute, and that is where you see that electric vehicles coming into picture, mostly in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler segment. Even if you ask me, I would say for the next, for the next 10 years also, electric vehicle penetration will be more on this particular areas, two and three-wheeler segment, and on the cars, it will be more for the fleet management. So people like Ola, Uber, and those companies will definitely change to electric vehicle because they have a lot of savings if they use the vehicle daily. So those segments will change, but personal vehicle segments may not change immediately, but it will take time. And when you look at the automotive cluster, this is a very important thing. So as many students are here in this particular session, so the students should be aware that who are all manufacturing, don't think Chennai is your border, right? Don't think Tamil Nadu is your border. So so in Tamil Nadu, Tamil we used to say, right? So we used to have the whole world as your place. So we should think the whole world as your place. And in India, you can see the whole India has some clusters. So our Tamil Nadu, the Chennai is our cluster, Chennai Hosur belt. That is a cluster for automobile, where you have this much of companies which I mentioned here. And don't worry, this whole presentation will be shared to all the participants. I'll be giving to ma'am, and she'll be sharing it. So the Chennai Hosur is a belt, and you have Karnataka, that means the Bangalore and the region as a belt for companies like some companies like Toyota. They are all there in Bangalore. And if you say another cluster in Mumbai and Pune, you have a cluster called Chakan. So the Chakan is a place in Mumbai where almost these all companies are there in Pune. Say Bajaj Auto, very important companies like Tata Motors. Those companies are all having their manufacturing plants in Pune only, right? And you have another cluster in Gujarat, and there is another cluster in Gurgaon. So these are all the places you have automotive companies established everywhere, right? So don't think Chennai is the area where I have job opportunities. You have opportunities everywhere in the world. So try to enhance your skills, and once you enhance the required skills, then obviously the whole world is our opportunity, right? So let us look into, so all these companies, obviously all these companies are having a very strong electric vehicle plan, but because of this corona issue, this problem, there are some changes that they have postponed the electric vehicle launch or electric vehicle development for a year of time or 2 years of time, right? But definitely, obviously, they have to come to electric vehicle because there are some pressure among them that I will show you in the coming slides. But obviously, all companies will look electric vehicle as a segment, especially the two-wheeler and three-wheeler manufacturing. And very important thing that you can understand is the India's topmost two-wheeler market, two-wheeler company is Hero Motors. and the topmost car company is the Maruti Suzuki. Both the companies are there at Gurgaon, right? They don't have plant in established well established plants in South India. So the topmost companies which are selling the almost nearly 50 to 60% of the vehicle of India, they are based in Gurgaon and these built the Delhi built, as you can say. So you have so much of opportunities for manufacturing sector there. That's a thing. That's a trend in India. And so this is a question. So why India should go electric? Why India should turn into electric vehicle, right? So let us have a look at this picture, guys. So this is a picture which I took from World Health Organization, WHO. This is a picture which shows the particulate matter concentration. Say particulate matter means it is a pollution actually. It is a type of air pollution. So if you're from the automotive background, you might be knowing it, but if not, you might not be knowing it. Many people are, you would have heard, someone was walking in the road, suddenly he got heart attack. Someone was driving a car, suddenly he got heart attack. We don't know what is the reason, right? So as an automobile engineer, I was from automotive background. So I know what is the reason. One of the reason is this particulate matter. This is a very serious problem in the world, and this is a very serious problem in developing countries. And you can see the countries which is having the highest level of particulate matter. This is something, this is if you make it understand, daily when you are commuting from your work, daily if you are using two-wheeler, you would have seen some black particle in your face, right? So you would have seen some black particles in your face. So that black particle is what this particulate matter, right? Let me put my face also so that there is an issue. I'll correct it. So this is the particulate matter. So particulate matter means, as I told you, when you are driving your daily two-wheelers and three-wheeler commute, you would have seen some black particles sticking in your face. When you are washing your face, you would have seen that it is coming out or it is getting washed away. So those black particles are called as particulate matters, and they are of size 2.5 micrometer. That is the problem. Very, very tiny particles. And these particles, if you are a person daily you are commuting in two-wheeler, even though you use helmet or any safety precaution, these particulate matters will enter your nose and it will go to your lungs. And this is what actually causing all sort of problems in our human body right now. And even the Europeans have done a lot of study on this, and that is why it's a very serious problem. And India, you can see this WHO report, which is telling that dangerous level. India is in the dangerous level of the particulate matter emission. And this level is very high in the northern states, very, very high in northern states compared to the southern states, you can say. So Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and this region have comparatively lesser amount of particulate matter emission, right? And these mainly coming from, these emissions are mainly coming from buses, trucks, and old vehicles, right? Old any vehicle which is more than 10 years, then obviously the more particulate matter emission will be there. And I'm seriously worried. Many people are dying in this world without knowing why they are dying. That is something bad. Say if someone is killing me, if I will at least know he is the person who killed me, right? And if someone is dying without knowing who is killing him and why he is dying, that is seriously a very problematic thing. And I'm seriously worried about this topic, and that is why I personally I prefer, I ask people to concentrate more on the electric vehicle. And there are some other questions I will definitely ask because people will ask me, sir, if you want to go to electric, then I have to talk about the electricity trend, which is generating from coal. I'll definitely answer all those questions in the coming slides. But this is one of the serious problem, guys. So everyone should understand. So particulate matter is a very serious problem, and never ever without proper masking or otherwise don't commute with normal two-wheeler for a day-to-day life. That definitely that will give up your problem and raise the problem concerned with relevant to this particulate matter. And this problem is very severe in African countries also. So you can see India is nowhere far away. It is also equivalent to African country in terms of particulate matter emission, right? Even though we have a developed environment. Right, and the other thing is number of deaths. This is also an WHO trend, which shows that number of death happening in the world because of air pollution. And obviously India is in the number one position. India is in the peak position. India and China both are highly populated. We are the topmost position on number of death. Nearly 5 lakh to 12 lakh 50,000 people die every year because of air pollution. For this coronavirus, we are worrying about 1,000 people, 2,000 people, but every year because of air pollution, 5 lakh people are dying, right? So that's a very serious thing that obviously we should take into consideration. So if anyone says why, and why this is happening is the local air pollution. This is not the air pollution which is happening in somewhere in the village. This air pollution is because which is happening in the cities, right? And these are the places where you have so much of mobility. So vehicles are running. So that is a major cause of one of the major cause. You can say nearly 30% of this pollution is coming from automobile, right? So that's a very notable thing, and we have to take serious action on it. And that is where the electric vehicle comes into picture. So considering all these aspects, Indian government is actually putting lot of pressure on bringing up electric vehicle. And so other than the pollution, what else is actually making India to go ahead with the electric vehicle? The very important thing is the amount of petrol and diesel, the amount of crude oil that India is importing. Nearly, if the study done by Niti Aayog says that if India stops using crude oil, that means if India stops reducing the amount of petrol and diesel consumption, India will save nearly 3.9 lakh crore of amount, right? That is so you can see our budget is somewhere around, our annual budget is somewhere around 23 lakh crore. So the Niti Aayog report says if India goes electric vehicle, India will save 3.9 lakh crore, right, in a period of 10 years, and 37% we can reduce the carbon emissions, and nearly 64% we can reduce the energy demand. So the total amount of energy demand can be reduced by 64%, and the amount of carbon dioxide emission can be reduced by 37%, which is a very notable thing. That is why government of India is actually pushing this idea, pushing this electric vehicle trend, because not only the pollution and this trend, there are some monetary benefits for the government of India. That is also the reason that the Indian government wants to go electric vehicles to be in the online, right? And because of this, what government has done, government recently announced many schemes. So the problem with Tamil Nadu, here, the Tamil Nadu people is we don't know Hindi, right? I believe some people will be smiling with your face. So most of the people, we don't know Hindi. So since we don't know Hindi, we are not able to understand what these North Indians are telling, right? And so there are many schemes, there are many tax reduction, many benefits government of India, central government has announced for the electric vehicle. But we generally, excuse me. Sorry guys. So this is the tax reduction benefit. So the tax reduction benefit is what not generally not known by most of the people in India. So you can see that nearly government of India has announced 1.5 lakh on the deduction. They will be if example, if you are purchasing an electric vehicle and you are purchasing it on loan, so your loan will be having some interest and all these things. So out of it, 1,50,000 interest will be paid. The government will be paying your interest because for your electric vehicle purchase, right? That is a one tax reduction benefit they are given. Second thing is GST rate. You can see our current automobile today. If you purchase a two-wheeler today, if you purchase a car, there is nearly 28% tax. 28% tax for automobile. So, but electric vehicle, in order to push electric vehicle, the GST has been already it was 12% only, and now it is reduced to 5%, right? So the price of the government is trying to push the electric vehicle in all the ways, and even not only the vehicle, even the components also. Say government also reduced the GST on the chargers. So chargers of the GST of the charger, electric vehicle charger, is also reduced from 18 to 5%. So always government is trying to push it. So even if you are purchasing some electric vehicle on a rental basis, then you will be exempted from GST. So these benefits also government is giving for the people who are purchasing electric vehicle. And let me brief you here. So you can see this picture, this particular chart, that if you are purchasing an electric two-wheeler, you will be given a subsidy of 10,000 per kilowatt. 10,000 per kilowatt. That means, let me, I think there is a small mistake in this number. That's not 1 lakh. It is 10,000 per kilowatt. And for buses, it is 20,000 per kilowatt, right? Sorry for that, right? So if you say, that means if you are an Indian, if you are in India, and if you purchase an electric two-wheeler, you will be given 10,000 rupees per kilowatt of the battery pack you are having in your vehicle, right? If your two-wheeler, if you are purchasing for example, Hero electric two-wheeler, and your Hero electric two-wheeler is having a battery pack of capacity of 2 kilowatt, then 2 into 10,000, 20,000 rupees will be subsidized from your vehicle cost. So if your vehicle cost is 60,000, you need to pay only 40,000, right? So this is the central government scheme announced by 2019 March. So now we have already crossed 2020 March, right? So still I am seeing people don't know that this particular scheme is there, right? So please spread the awareness among people that this is the scheme which is given by government. So to 10,000 rupees per kilowatt for all two-wheeler, three-wheeler cars, and 20,000 rupees per kilowatt for buses and trucks, right? This is for supporting the public transport. They have done it. So if you purchase a three-wheeler, if there is an auto rickshaw driver, if he purchases an auto with 5 kilowatt battery, then 50,000 rupees will be his subsidy for the vehicle, right? So spread this awareness. So this is called as FAME 2 scheme. So faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicle. This is the scheme name, and this is started by the government, central government of India. So by the government of India, and they are actually established the scheme, and it is live. Even now, if you purchase electric vehicle, you are eligible for this scheme. Remember that. But there are some eligibility criteria for this scheme. That is very, very important. Right? So which vehicles are eligible for this particular FAME scheme? That is very important. There are some companies which they will tell you purchase the vehicle, you will get subsidy, right? But they will not tell whether they are eligible or not eligible, right? So that is very important. When you take electric two-wheeler, the vehicles which have minimum 80 kilometer range, understand this particular scenario, right? Minimum 80 kilometer range they should have. Minimum, that means a minimum top speed. The vehicle should go minimum 40 kilometer speed. 40 kilometer minimum it should go, and the minimum acceleration is 0.65 meter per second square. And the energy consumption also, there is a limit. They cannot consume too much of electrical energy on your vehicle. So there also there is a cap. So the electric two-wheeler means not more than 8 kilowatt it can consume for 100 kilometer. If it is an electric three-wheeler, not more than 8 kilowatt. So three-wheeler L5 category. L5 category means our normal autos, our autos which can move fast. That is called as L5 category. So they cannot consume more than 10 kilowatt per 100 kilometer. Top speed is minimum 40. So if it is a car, minimum 70 speed it should go, and if it is a bus, minimum 50 it should go. So these are all the conditions given by the Automotive Research Association of India to get subsidy on the vehicle. Right? Don't think if you purchase a vehicle, a slow speed electric two-wheeler, you will not get subsidy. You are not eligible for subsidy, right? So this is the eligibility criteria for getting subsidy on your electric vehicle, and this is a very important thing, and this is not generally available very easily on the online. So since people are from this profession, we know this is thing. So please note down this. You can just we will share the presentation. No worries. So this is a eligibility criteria that we should know. So electric vehicle, when you are purchasing, all these criteria should be met. Then only you will be able to get the subsidy for the vehicle. Remember that. And not only this thing. So you would have seen very recently, people have started importing these electric vehicles from China, right? So I think you people will agree. Everywhere people are now started, importing the vehicle from China, importing the parts from China, and because of this, what happens? Local manufacturers in India, they are not getting business, or they are not even interested to start business, right? Because people are dumping this garbage kind of products from China and other countries. So because of this, government has started a new scheme called Phase Manufacturing Program, and this scheme, they are putting some limits. They are putting some limitations that which product can be imported, which product cannot be imported, right? So this scheme will tell you, for example, if electric vehicle has a DC-DC converter, so DC-DC converter cannot be imported after 2019 October, right? And for cars, they have given time till April 2020, and now even that time is also overlapped. But now because of these corona issues, they might extend this timeline, because the whole industry is being affected in all the way. So obviously they will shift to this date. They will shift this to maybe another year also. You can see, or next second half of this year also. So what it means is, they cannot import these components, say DC-DC converter, electronic throttle, battery pack. They cannot import these components anymore from China and other countries. They have to manufacture this in India. This is a rule, right? So you can see, for some components, say electrical compressor, electrical vehicle needs some special compressors for our AC. So those components are not immediately available in India, because these are all high voltage components. So for them, they have given the date like October 2020, which is not yet happened. So it is yet to come. So for those components, special components, they are given a very timeline. So even the charging inlet, all these things are not immediately available in India. So those technologies are not available in India immediately. So people are just starting to develop. So because of that, you have a timeline given for that. So this is how the government is actually trying to make some efforts. You can see traction motor, traction motor controller. These things, they are given time till 2021 April for the 4-wheeler segment. But for the 2 and 3-wheeler segment, they are given only for April 2020. So there will be some changes in this timeline in coming days. So this is one of the schemes that Government of India made to support local manufacturer, so that people will stop importing the components from China and other countries, and they will start making the components in India itself, right? So we should not do something. I'm a person who does not support the scheme called Make in India completely, right? So Make in India is something which will create a manufacturing sector in India, but it will not create indigenous products developed by India, right? So I'm a person who look for made in India products. So obviously that is where people should focus, right? But being a more populated country, Make in India is also something important, because there are many people who need jobs, right? And this is also part of the PMP scheme, and I will not go deep into these topics. Let me skip this, right? And let us look at the global trend. So if you see the overall, you just keep India in a sideway, because India is just picking up. India is in a condition where China and other countries were 10 years before. So India is in such a condition now. In other countries where 10 years they were before in such condition, they were starting, right? So India is also in such position. But if you take the other countries, the trend of other countries, you can see almost the whole world electric vehicle trend, nearly 100, and then say 430, means nearly 430,000 vehicles have been sold in 2019 in China itself. So China is the major market. They are the major purchaser of electric vehicle, because government started promoting electric vehicle 10 years ahead. 10 years before itself they started it. And because of that, same like whatever the scheme I told you, right, the FAME scheme, subsidy, same thing China did. And the result is now 10 years after now, they are the global market of electric vehicle, right? And they have a very good, they have reduced their usage of crude oil. They have reduced the usage of petrol, diesel, and the number of electric vehicle sales is huge in China. And even other countries like US, Norway, Germany, France, Netherlands, Korea, Canada, UK, Japan, they are also increasingly adopting the electric vehicle, as they want to make their environment clean, right? And that is one of the trend which is happening, and every year it is keep on increasing. And obviously this year, either it is a petrol engine or a diesel engine or electric or gas, no sales is there. You would have seen recently the news from Maruti, 88% sales drop because of this corona issue. Nearly automobiles sales was affected by 88 to 90%, right? That's a huge loss for all the companies. So definitely, yes, they will take some time to come back, and there will be a lot of support given by the government, right? Let's see that. But this is the trend in the overall, the global level. And let us see state level. Say, you just come out of India now, think about Tamil Nadu. So state level, so think about states, every state. So now every state is giving some importance to the electric vehicle, and every state they want to push the electric vehicle. And very recently you would have seen Delhi. Delhi has announced some subsidy schemes for electric vehicle users, because Delhi is one of the most polluted city in India, and because of that they want to move electric, and they announced a very good scheme. That means what is that is, other than the central government subsidy, already central government is giving subsidy of 10,000 rupees per kilowatt. Other than that particular scheme, the Delhi government has announced a top-up incentive of 50%. That means if your vehicle cost is 50,000, central government will give you, say, for example, 20,000, and out of 20, and once again the state government will give you 20,000 by 50% means 10,000. So once again another 10,000 will be given by state government of Delhi, and so 30,000 will be the subsidy. So 50% of the additional top-up incentive is given for the electric vehicles in Delhi. And another scheme is scrapping and deregistration incentive. If anyone is having an old two-wheeler, old three-wheeler, they want to scrap the vehicle. If they deregister it and scrap the vehicle, they will get a subsidy up to 15,000 per vehicle. Up to 15,000 per vehicle if they scrap it and buy a new vehicle. Right? That's a very important announcement done by the Delhi government. And similarly, you can expect, being a very largest taxpayer in being the Maharashtra, so they have also done some subsidies. I'll just brief it. You can see even Delhi government announced recently that whoever put charging station in Delhi, for the first 10,000 charging station, 100% grant. That means the charges cost will be given by the Delhi government, and 30,000 installation cost also will be given. Right. So all these are being announced by Delhi government to promote the electric vehicles only. Right. So many aspects they are doing it. And that is what Delhi government is doing. And similarly, Tamil Nadu government, if you ask me, they have not done anything specific to electric vehicle till now. They have just recently launched their policy, but that policy is not sound enough. It is not something directly gives some incentive or something, but it is just giving you some information like what will be the electricity charge. So if you are using your electricity normally at home, you will have some unit consumption, right? Some rupees per unit. But for electric vehicle, it has been reduced to 4 rupees, 5 rupees, 6 rupees per unit. So if you are conventionally in your manufacturing plant and all, you have to give 9 rupees, 10 rupees per unit. But for electric vehicle charging, if you are in a home, you want to charge your own electric vehicle, you have to pay just 5 rupees, 4 rupees for electric vehicle charging, right? So those are things are there. Right. So let me just brief it here. Let me just stop it here as the part of the session. Right. So guys, do you have any questions on this particular thing? Do you have any questions on this? And then let me go to the technology perspective. So if you have any questions relevant to these schemes and benefits and the trends, kindly put your questions.
Students, you can unmute yourself to talk. Sir, for me a query. You have talked about the faster adoption and manufacturing in electric and hybrid vehicle scheme. So yes, with that, generally it is for the Department of Heavy Industries, sir. Is that implementing the scheme? Because phase 1, which was done during the April 2015, it was started for the heavy industry, right, sir?
No, it is not started for heavy industry, ma'am. It is actually coming under the Department of Heavy Industries, but it is actually common for all. Any individual, you or me, any individual can purchase electric vehicle and can avail this benefit.
Okay, sir.
And I think some person has asked the question. So maybe you finish your question, ma'am. You finish your question.
Okay, sir. So anyway, for ensuring the sustainable growth of this, how this FAME India scheme how academicians can be can associate with this to make our students to work on this, sir? Is there any other possibility in this?
Yeah. So this particular scheme is, ma'am, actually this particular scheme is generally open to all, right? It is not only particular industry or particular person or particular academic or anything. For any person who is in India, if he is a citizen of India, he can claim this benefit. Okay, and how he can claim? There's a question from one person that how we can claim this benefit. So actually, if I am a person, I am purchasing an electric vehicle. When I am purchasing itself, if example the actual MRP of the vehicle, the vehicle price is like 1 lakh, right? And when I am purchasing the vehicle, when I am purchasing itself, I don't need to pay the whole 1 lakh. I just need to pay the amount which is subsidized. So, for example, 20,000, 30. For example, 30,000 is the FAME subsidy. So I have to pay only 70,000. So I don't need to pay 30,000. 30,000 government will pay to the manufacturer, to the dealer or the company. So that's how the benefit is there, and there is no special announcement for the academics or all these areas. It is general to any public, any Indian citizen can avail this particular benefit.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. And one more student is asked for that he has to be cleared for the distance. How much
Yes,
distance can be traveled by using this e-vehicle, and how many times it should be charged?
Yes, yes. Let me put that, ma'am. So the people, participants, I just passed the session. Don't think it is the end of the session. I just passed the session. It is the part of the session. So once we complete some few questions, and then once again we will continue the session with the technological perspective. Okay. So the question was distance, right? So he asked about the distance. As I mentioned clearly in the presentation, there is a limit they have given, right? There is a limit that Government of India has given. For example, minimum 80-kilometer range. For example, for two-wheeler, any company. If I am from Hero Motor, if I am developing a Hero bike, Hero electric scooter or something, that scooter should have minimum 80-kilometer range per charge. 80-kilometer per range per charge, without which they are not eligible for the FAME subsidy. Right. So generally, most of the companies will have this eligibility minimum value of 80 km for 2 and 3-wheeler, and for 4-wheeler minimum range is 140 km per charge, and for buses, commercial vehicles, it is 100 km per charge minimum value. And companies will change, so it will differ from company to company, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other question, ma'am?
Alexander sir is asking for any government authorized e-bike seller. Details regarding government authorized e-bike seller.
Yes. So what you can do for this, that's a good question. What you can do is you can visit the website called Society of Manufacturer of Electric Vehicles. Let me just type it here so that people can understand. SMEV, Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicles. Just visit this website. So in this website, all government authorized companies are there. Government authorized companies are there as the member. So those companies you can purchase, and you can contact them and get information of the dealership and all these things and all. Even there are many entrepreneurship opportunities. They are approaching many people in Delhi and in North India. People have started putting a lot of showrooms, and in Tamil Nadu the awareness is still yet to pick up. So this is the association, ma'am. So they have to contact this Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicles. They have to go to the website of SMEV. They can get more information.
Okay, thank you, sir. And one more doubt, sir, to add on to this. As a homologation consultant, you may be very much specific with the market-specific requirements, and you have to see for the approvals, government approvals. But my question may be very much hypothetical. But is India ready for the electric vehicles, sir? Is India ready?
In terms, ma'am, in terms of what?
Not only in the manufacturing part, for all, like because there are so many pros and cons. It's like going regarding the EV. So how far we can there will be a complete transformation, how it can happen from other conventional to electric vehicles. Can it happen all of a sudden? There are so many things to be framed before getting into this, right, sir?
So ma'am, my very good answer will be this particular slide, right? So if you are seeing this trend, this is a unique trend, ma'am. Anywhere in the world, any country in the world, you will not see this trend. Okay, India is the only country, and you can see Africa is also one of the country which is having such similar trend. So India is the only country which is having such trend of 80% of two-wheelers, right? And bringing the electric vehicle for two-wheeler segment, it is not a very complicated task. And in terms of certification also, in terms of certification and verification validation also, there is no problematic thing that people face for two-wheeler making. And India is being a 80% two-wheeler market, obviously there is no problem. I hope you understand this.
Yes, sir. Now clear.
Yes, ma'am. So I will just go to the session, ma'am, and then we will also how to set. There are some questions how to set up charging station and all these things. Let me finish this session completely, and then we will answer the remaining questions also. Right?
Sure, sir. Yes. I request students to put their questions on the chat box throughout their presentation. And whenever turns come, we will get with answers, sir.
Definitely. We will put all the answers, at most all the answers for all the questions. And if anything is missed, feel free to reach us also, ma'am. So I'll go to the technological part. right?
Thank you.
So
Okay,
let us look at a conventional vehicle. If you see a conventional vehicle today, for example, a petrol vehicle or diesel vehicle. So this particular thing which I am going to discuss is technological perspective, and in what way electric vehicle technology is actually ahead of the conventional vehicle. Why even some manufacturers also thinking to go to electric vehicle. If you see a conventional vehicle, this is a conventional vehicle drivetrain layout. So the conventional vehicle has an engine, has a gearbox, has a propeller shaft, and it has another propeller shaft for extension, and you have a coupling, and you have a differential. You have so much of components. So this is a very important thing. You have so much of mechanical components. So you should not ask me that electric vehicle does not have so much of components. No, not like that. Electric vehicle also has equally, you can sometimes even more number of components also, right? But the difference is in electric vehicle, it is all electronic components. So, but in terms of conventional vehicle, it is all mechanical components. And because of mechanical components, the efficiency is the problematic area. So because of the huge amount of mechanical components like engine, gearbox, transmission system, and your differential shaft and all these things, bearings, makes this whole system very poor in the efficiency. And today's conventional vehicle has nearly 40% efficiency. That is what the efficiency of the vehicles today, right? Whereas electric vehicle, if you take electric vehicles, have the minimum efficiency of nearly 85%. Right, and that is a very important notable thing. And also remember that electric vehicle is not a new trend. Electric vehicle was there from 1800s itself. There was the first automobile in the world was an electric vehicle, which was created in 1835. And once at that time the technology was very poor. We did not had even at that time we had lead acid batteries, all the technology, but they were very heavy and they were not able to meet the requirement. That is why people went for this gasoline and petrol and vehicle. But before that, electric vehicles were there. But now if you see the electric vehicle, we have an enormous amount of improvement on the power electronics development. Power electronics has made a huge change, and because of that, the amount of electronic components have become, that means the volume, the space the electronic components take has become tiny and tiny and tiny, and you are seeing very, very small components. I will show the example in coming slides. So this is a conventional vehicle. So the conventional vehicle's main problem is these number of components. So more number of components, more loss of efficiency, then more problems. And when you come to electric vehicle, this is an example of an electric vehicle drivetrain. You would have seen so much of components from front to rear, but in an electric vehicle, all these components, engine, gearbox, shaft, differential, coupling, everything is now compressed into this particular box. So this is called the e-axle, right? The whole vehicle, the whole components which were doing all these jobs have been compressed to this small area called e-axle. So this area has the motor, it has the inverter, it has the gearbox, it has the differential, and you have the shaft directly sitting in axial with the wheels. So the whole efficiency, the minimum efficiency of the system is somewhere around 80-85%. And there are companies now, they are running their electric cars with nearly 96% efficiency, right? So that is something very, very, very notable thing that comparable to a conventional vehicle, right? And one second thing is the ease of assembly. So for example, nowadays, if you take the conventional vehicle today, engine is being supplied by some person, transmission is being supplied by some person, some company, shaft is being supplied by some company, and gear differential is supplied by some company. But today, this e-axle is supplied by one single company. So because of this, all the manufacturing companies, they feel that the whole assembly process or the manufacturing process, supply chain, everything is being simplified because of this particular e-axle kind of thing. So if there is a company called ZF, so ZF will supply the whole motor, inverter with the gearbox, right? They will purchase the inverter from other company, but they will assemble it everything together, and they will make this e-axle, and the e-axle will be supplied to the manufacturer. So this is the way that the system works, and you can see that the whole electric vehicle is being, the system is being compressed, and this is how the benefit is being given to the electric vehicle other than the conventional vehicle. So much of components in electric vehicle. And one more important thing is why so much of, it's not only so much of components, it is so much of moving components. So you have engine, you have so much of piston, connecting rod, so much of moving components. In gearbox, you have so much of gear, so much of moving components. Shaft is also a rotating component, and you have so much of rotating and reciprocating component. But in your electric vehicle, you have only the motor, which is your moving component, and only that too only the shaft is going to rotate. And you have the gearbox, we have only 1 or 2 gears which is going to rotate. You don't need so much of gears like your conventional vehicle. Conventional vehicle has, if you say this particular Mercedes vehicle will have nearly 9 gear, 12 gear and all, right? But an electric vehicle does not need more than 2 gear and 1 gear, which I will because electric vehicle has an instantaneous torque given by the motor, so obviously that is the reason that electric vehicle technology itself is very simplified in terms of assembly process and manufacturing process. But there are some difficulties on manufacturing of the motor and all these things, but let us discuss later. So when you take an engine curves, when you take an engine, when you compare this, say if there are any mechanical engineers in this particular session, you will be knowing that, you know, if your engine is there, your engine, so generally if you take any electric vehicle, if you take an electric vehicle, when we need a torque, when we need the peak torque, we need a peak torque when you are moving from the rest position, right? So when we are moving from the rest position of the vehicle, we need the peak torque. But if you take the engine curve, this is the engine curve which explains the torque and the speed. You can see that engine takes nearly, to achieve the peak torque, engine has to run nearly 2500 RPM. 2500 RPM it has to run, and then only it will achieve the peak torque. Okay, I have achieved the peak torque. What is the problem now is it is not maintaining the torque, it is immediately coming down. That is another problem, right? And once you start your vehicle, once your vehicle is started, now what is the problem? I have to achieve the peaks, the top speed, right? Everyone want to reach the top speed very fast. So what is that decides that? It is the engine power. And when you see the engine power, when I am getting the maximum power, even that takes a maximum, say this is the blue color is the torque curve, and the green, the power achieves the peak condition at somewhere around 5000 6000 RPM. So to achieve peak power, I have to run my engine at this much RPM to achieve this peak power, right? This is for a petrol engine and this is for a diesel engine. But when you take an electric motor, this is a generic electric motor curve. So when you take an electric motor, the electric motor starts from the peak torque itself. That is the first benefit that electric motor gives you. It does a magic that the moment you start your electric motor, it starts with the peak torque. And the second advantage that your electric motor is giving is it maintains the peak torque. Not only starts with peak torque, it maintains the peak torque, and it maintains the peak torque up to nearly, say, there is a base speed up to 2000 RPM. That is, so that means if a motor maintains the peak torque constantly, that means what? That means the vehicle can do magic in acceleration. And that is why you can see Tesla, very recently Tesla launched their Roadster, which can accelerate from 0 to 100 in 2.2 seconds. 2.2 seconds. That's a magic number. Can you imagine 0 to 100 km/h in 2.2 seconds? So how it is possible? Because they are able to generate the torque. They are able to generate the peak torque in a fraction of seconds. And can you imagine what is the torque that the vehicle of Tesla Roadster is rising? It's something around 10,000 Newton meter. 10,000 Newton meter. Can you imagine the torque, the amount of torque? So it was completely possible because of the motor and the little bit transmission given to it. So the motors can do magic. This magic is not possible by engine. Remember, without gearbox, engines cannot work properly. But if you take motor can survive without gearbox, but engines cannot survive without gearbox. So you can see the power also, the power curve also. The power curve, you can see once the torque starts dropping down, immediately your power, the green color is the power curve of your motor, immediately your power becomes constant. That we call it as, if you are from electrical background, the people you would have known that we call it as constant power region, CPR, we call it as. So the electric motors, they have the constant power region, which extends this constant power region for a period of time and increases the amount of maximum power that the motor can deliver. So the motors can do magic, really a great magic compared to the IC engines, which we have in today conventional vehicles. So the two best advantage they are giving is, not two, four advantages the motor gives is, first thing is the motor starts with peak torque. Second thing is the peak torque is continuous for a period of time. Third thing is the motor achieves peak power in a very short span of time. Say for example 3000 RPM itself, right? But you take a engine takes nearly 6000, 5000 RPM to achieve the peak power, right? And you have, and after that also it maintains the peak power constantly, right? This is a generic curve, and there will be a difference between induction and BLDC. I'm not going deeper this particular session, right? And you can also see the efficiency mapping of the motor, right? This is the efficiency map of an electric motor. You can see minimum efficiency somewhere around 84, 86, 88, 90, right? But when you see the consumption of engines, it will be very poor, right? And so electric motors in terms of efficiency also today, recently the motors developed by the companies, they are almost 96% efficiency, 96%. Can you imagine? Engines today, the IC engines today, which is in the market, it is having the maximum efficiency of 40-45%. Whereas the electric motors having the minimum efficiency of 85%. And today's electric motors in the PMSM and the new latest motors coming in the market, they are having up to 96% of efficiency, right? That's a very notable thing. So there are so much of things going behind the electric motor research, and so that is to be noted down, right? And similarly, not only say for example, if we are not able to directly take it up electric vehicle, there is another trend which is going now, that is called as electrification, right? That means instead of directly completely converting this IC engine vehicle into electric vehicle, what we can do is we can reduce the amount of power of IC engine and supply with electric motor there. That is, we call it as hybrid vehicles. And that is one trend which is actually increasing in the world. Many countries in the world, they are not directly moving to electric. First, they are purchasing the hybrid vehicles. Say the hybrid vehicle will something look like this, right? Say for example, the hybrid vehicle will have an engine, it will have a gearbox and generator, and it will have a traction motor also. But for example, this is a series hybrid vehicle. So this vehicle, if you see why it is called series hybrid, because you have a generator connected in series with your motor, with your engine. So what will happen here is your vehicle will be running by electric motor. That means the vehicle will be propelled by electric motor, but to run the electric motor, you need power, right? So that electric power will be supplied by your engine. Your engine will act as a generator only. It will not run your vehicle. So this is called a series hybrid vehicle, right? In series hybrid vehicle, you will have the engine, you will have a generator. So this generator will generate electricity and store it in the battery pack, and that battery pack will power the motor to drive your vehicle. So what the mechanical transmission will happen only from the motor, and there will be only electrical power supply from the engine generator. This is called series hybrid. And the other trend is parallel hybrid. And there are many examples I can say for example, Toyota Prius, which is the best example for parallel hybrid. And you can see they are generally, in this case, the engine and the motor both are coupled using some clutch mechanism. And in this case, either the engine alone can drive your vehicle, either your motor alone can drive the vehicle, or either both can combine together and parallelly they can run your vehicle, right? So this is called parallel hybrid. At the same time, your engine can also act as a generator. And so all these ways are happening. All the ways of power source is there in this hybrid vehicles. So the series hybrid, engine is only acting as a generator, but in parallel hybrid, your engine will act as a generator, as well as it will run the vehicle, as well as you can use the clutch between the engine and generator to couple it and decouple it anytime, right? So but these vehicles, series hybrid and parallel hybrid, these vehicles are generally very costlier in terms of compared to the conventional vehicle. It will be costlier, and it will be compared to the electric vehicles also, it will be a little bit costlier, because both engine and gearbox is there. So but obviously there will be energy saving, huge energy saving. If you see recently the Toyota Prius that Toyota is planning to launch, they are having a mileage of 40 km per liter. 40 km per liter. It is a hybrid, petrol hybrid. You can see there will be a motor, there will be engine. So the Toyota hybrid is having 40 km per liter mileage, right? So whereas our conventional vehicle today, what we are using is having somewhere around 15 to 20 km mileage, right? 20 km per liter. But this particular vehicle, hybrid vehicle, is giving you 40 km per liter mileage from Toyota. So those kind of things, obviously they will have huge benefit compared to petrol vehicle, comparatively huge benefit is there in the hybrid vehicle. Even though the vehicle's cost is very high in the initial stage, you will have 40 km per liter mileage, so obviously you will have savings in the coming days, right? So that is a trend in the vehicle level. And let me go to the component level, right? So I told you motor is doing magic, but let us understand the motor technology, which is having the huge requirement, right? So when you talk about motor for electric vehicle, when you talk about motor for electric vehicle, these 4 motors are the huge requirement is there. So first one is the PMSM, permanent magnet synchronous motor. So this particular motor, which is based upon permanent magnet, this is having the huge requirement as per a situation right now. And I'm not telling this is the only motor which you can use in electric vehicle. It is one of the motor which is having the highest efficiency. Nearly 96% efficiency you can achieve with this particular motor as per the current technology developed by the companies, right? And so this PMSM motor, you can see is one of the very important motor, and this motor is very especially suitable for the passenger car segment and the buses and truck segment. And because this motor, the specialty of this PMSM motor is you will have a very high constant power region. That is very important, right? So when you have a car, what you need in a car, once the car is accelerated, what you need to achieve some top speed. You want to go 100, 150 kilometer, 120 kilometer, 150 kilometer top speed, right? So that is possible only if the motor is able to go to the maximum power in a very short period of time. So this PMSM motor is having a unique this particular PMSM motor has a unique presence that the PMSM motor can create a huge amount of power from the moment it starts the vehicle itself, right? So the PMSM motor can do a lot of magic. And other than that, you will have the induction motor. Many people I am seeing in India. So in India, you might be knowing India is India has been using induction motor for all industrial applications. But there are many industry people. I have seen people in Coimbatore. They are asking, sir, whether I can use induction motor for electric motor. So I would say yes, obviously you can use. There is nothing that stops you from using induction motor from electric vehicle, right? Don't think about the technology availability 10 years back, 15 years back. Now the technology for the inverter, what we use for the PMSM motor, the same inverter can be utilized for induction motor also with the necessary changes. So there is no problem in making an induction motor to apply for electric vehicle. And there are already some example vehicles available in the market with induction motor, right? Even the Tesla vehicle, when they started the market, when they started coming into the market, they started with induction motor only. But now, however, even Tesla has now moved to PMSM motor. There are many reasons behind it, right? There are many reasons. The PMSM motor gives you many cost benefit, efficiency benefit, and production manufacturing wise, many benefits are there for PMSM motor. And because of that, Tesla moved to the PMSM motor, even though the company name is Tesla, right? Who founded this induction motor. But induction motor definitely they have the capability, they can support electric vehicle. And there are some vehicles from General Motors, there are some vehicles in Chevrolet brand with induction motor also, right? So don't think induction motors cannot be applied for electric vehicle. Obviously they can be applied with the necessary changes on the controller design, right? And there are many examples. So induction motor also is a best example. And I would say India should not concentrate more on these kind of motors, BLDC and PMSM motors, which are all highly reliant on magnet availability. Don't remember, India is not having the required magnet particle, required rare earth elements like neodymium. India is not having the dysprosium. So these are all the materials what we need to make the particulate permanent magnet materials, right? So those materials are not available in India. So we have to rely upon China and other countries, especially China. China is the world's topmost manufacturer of dysprosium. So dysprosium is the material which is used for making the permanent magnet. So those
those materials are not available in India. So if some material is not available in India, now if it is not available in India, then we should not focus on such technology, highly reliable. You should not first directly focus on such technology and think about induction motor, which does not have permanent magnet, which does not need any special requirements that your PMSM is asking, that your BLDC motor is asking, right? So induction motor is a very, very simple thing that even a layman can manufacture, right? Induction motor is a very simple motor which a layman can manufacture very easily. If you go to Coimbatore, there are so many people who are manufacturing this induction motor in their homes. There are home-based industries are there, right? So people are in manufacturing it. So I would suggest, obviously, people, since India is being a two-wheeler and three-wheeler market, so India should start working on making this induction motor very reliable and easy to manufacture, so that India will not rely upon the permanent magnet technology of China and other countries, right? They have permanent magnet. That is why they are going for PMSM. If we don't have permanent magnet, we should always focus on something that is something which can give you prolonged support. So if we focus on induction motor now, say if you, for example, I would take the example of lead acid battery. You would have seen lead acid battery everywhere in our cars, two-wheelers. Similarly, induction motor technology is everywhere in India, right? Anyway, any technician knows how to repair an electric induction motor. But if I put a PMSM motor in front of him, he will not know how to handle this, even handle the motor also, because the motor has a lot of permanent magnet. Even handling this motor is a very serious problem. You need sophisticated machineries for it, right? So understand that bringing induction motor, and the academicians also should start working on the induction motor only, right? Don't waste your time on doing some research unnecessarily. If you are really doing a product, you want to develop a product for India, stop working on this BLDC and permanent magnet motor. Better you can focus on induction motor. Otherwise, you can work on the reducing the amount of permanent magnet material. That is one area where we can focus. And even this SRM, this switched reluctance motor, also is one of the reliable motor like induction motor. People are thinking whether SRM is suitable for electric vehicle. Obviously, guys, like induction motor, as I told, SRM motors also can run the electric vehicles. There are some difficulties in terms of noise, in terms of vibration, in terms of operational difficulties. Those things are to be improved, but they have the capability to run the electric vehicle. And there are some electric vehicle already launched in the market with SRM motor also. Just try to explore more. Don't think that only BLDC motor and PMSM motor can be used in electric vehicle. Even other motors can do the much magic in this segment. And the other important technology is the battery technology, which decides this electric vehicle. And once again, ma'am, you asked me the question whether India is ready, right? So even if I take this question in terms of battery technology, if you see, I have put 6 technologies here, 6 lithium ion technology, right? So you have so much of lithium ion technology, lithium battery technology. Every battery technology is having some pros and some cons, right? For example, if I take this, there are some 6 characters I have put it here. So one is the lifespan, one is the cost, one is the performance, one is the safety, and one is the specific power. If I say which is the battery which is having the highest lifespan, can you please pick it up? Which is the battery which is having the highest lifespan? Which type of lithium battery is giving highest lifespan? Say, for example, lithium, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, which is having the highest lifespan. And this is the chemistry which is used by Tesla. And any other battery you can find with highest lifespan? This one, the lithium iron phosphate, LFP, which is having the highest lifespan. You can say 5 points, highest lifespan. So LFP is also one of the battery which is having highest lifespan. And any other, lithium titanate, is having highest lifespan. So these 3 technologies, lithium, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, lithium iron phosphate, lithium titanate. So these technologies have highest lifespan. But when now second parameter I will take highest, that means poor cost. Which battery is having the worst cost? That means highest cost. That means good in cost, or you can say which is good in cost element. If you take that scenario, you can see lithium, nickel, manganese, cobalt, NMC. NMC is having good cost, and nickel, lithium, manganese, spinel. is having the lowest cost, and you can say ferrophosphate is also having a good cost parameter, right? And if you say worst cost, which is the highest cost in terms of battery technology, you can see lithium titanate, which is having the highest cost in terms of battery technology, right? So, and which is but the same battery is having a lifespan, better lifespan. So when I'm selecting a battery technology, I have a confusion. Which battery should I go? Should I take a battery which is having a highest lifespan, or should I take a battery which is having a lowest cost, right? Like this, or should I take a battery which is having high safety? So which is the most safest battery? The lithium iron phosphate, right? So this particular battery is having the highest safety, and which battery is having the lowest safety? Can you find it? Lowest safety, this battery, lithium cobalt. So this battery is having the lowest safety. I cannot take this battery and put it in my electric vehicle because it is not safer. And if you take the lithium iron phosphate, it is very, very safer. Now tell me, which is the best battery I can use for Indian case? Can anyone, ma'am, can you identify, ma'am, from this particular slide? Can you identify any one particular battery, ma'am, which looks suitable for India in terms of all considerations?
Maybe lithium iron phosphate, sir.
That's good, ma'am. That's good. Any other, ma'am? Any other one? That's a correct answer. And any other one that's something better, similar to iron phosphate? Any other one you can identify?
Maybe next to that. Sorry, I will pass this to my students.
Okay. Anyone other than ferrophosphate, guys? Anything that you think better in all perspective? Remember, it should be better in all perspective.
In all perspective, any answers? Few are saying it as NMC.
Correct. It is NMC. So NMC is a chemistry where you have, almost say 80-85% lifespan, 80-85% good cost, and very good specific energy, very good specific power, and comparative to the ferrophosphate, comparatively it's little bit lesser safer, but compared to other batteries it is more safer, better performance. So all aspects are being covered, and that is, you are right. So you people are right because you are Indian. Guys, yes, because you are right because Indian, because these are the two batteries which are the highest sold batteries in India. You are able to identify correctly because you are Indians, right? And the ferrophosphate is the chemistry, and the NMC is the chemistry which is the highest sold battery chemistry in India in the electric vehicle segment. Because Indians need the very important thing, even compared to safety, Indians need what? Cost. Indians need what? Lifespan. Right? Indians need what? Performance. Even though they're not pretty much worried about safety, but safety is also a consideration. Obviously, I cannot say safety should be left. Safety is a very important consideration which is to be given first priority. But as per Indians' knowledge, as per my understanding, Indians give more priority to cost compared to safety. Right? And that's why these chemistries are having highest priority, because they have better safety, at the same time better cost. Right? But remember guys, this lithium ion is not the only technology. Similar to what I told in the motor segment, similar to what I told, don't rely upon BLDC alone, don't rely upon PMSM alone. In battery technology, in motor, I told you, Indians should concentrate more on induction and SRM motor. Similarly, I am telling you, in the battery technology, we should concentrate more on the lead acid battery technology. Lead acid battery can do magics, and nowadays there are modern lead acid battery technologies, lead acid battery foam technology, lead acid battery graphite based lead acid battery technology. So the problem with lead acid battery is, ma'am, can you please tell me like one or two, or your students, can you guys tell me one or two problems with lead acid battery? One problem by one person. Lead acid battery, so this is the problem, sir. Can you tell me any one problem with lead acid battery?
More toxic fumes.
Toxic fumes, very good, because you have a lot of sulfuric acid inside it, so you can get a lot of toxic fumes. Anything else? You have lead, obviously, that is also toxic. Any other negative points, guys, on the lead acid battery? Ma'am, if people are typing it, can you please read it for me, ma'am, so that I'm not able to see that?
Sure, sir. Students, if you know the answer, you can write it in the chat box.
Just make it interactive, guys. Just tell me if lead acid battery, what do you think that lead acid battery, the problem of lead acid battery is, other than toxic fumes, which ma'am told?
Overweight.
Weight is very good. So the weight is something a very important factor. And when I am saying electric vehicle, every gram is matter, right? Is a very important matter. So when I am saying the battery is very heavy, obviously that is not. I will not accept it. So that's a good answer. Good answer, ma'am. Then anything
Sai
else?
Jackson has given low energy density.
Very good. So when I say weight, I cannot store more energy. If I want to store more energy, then I have to put more weight. So that is what he is saying, low energy density. Okay.
Jyoti is saying hazardous.
Yes, hazardous. Yes, there are hazardous chemicals inside. So obviously, yes. Anything
Manikandan
else?
is saying evolution of hydrogen and oxygen gas.
Correct. When you are charging a lead acid battery, hydrogen gas will be evaporating outside. That is a dangerous thing. Good. That's good. Anything else?
Bala Mageshwari is saying electrolyte can evaporate.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. Anything, ma'am?
Alexander sir is saying heating problem.
Yes, obviously. So lead acid batteries, when you charge, discharge, you will feel the heat developing from the battery because of the chemical reaction happening inside.
Naveen is telling difficult to dispose.
Difficult to dispose.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll put a clarity here. And so this is that is where one okay, ma'am, I will stop it here. I'll go on to the session. If you see the battery technology, guys, the very important question that most 99% people when I'm meeting, they are asking me when they are every time, people used to argue with me, right? And some people argue to me that they tell that this lithium based batteries, how you will recycle, correct? How you will recycle after using this lithium batteries in electric vehicle. And when I am saying lead acid battery, the advantage is 99.999% of lead acid battery is recyclable. The same lead acid battery, if you're using for 10 years and if you put it for scrap, the same battery can be used and can be used for recycling and to create the new battery of lead acid battery. That is what the benefit that lead acid battery is giving. That is why I am saying people should not concentrate more on technologies which is not suitable for India. Right? India, if you take India has been using the lead acid battery technology for so many years, right? Even though you're telling toxic, even though you're telling fumes, have you faced any problem from your lead acid battery from your vehicle, the two-wheeler which you're riding? Have you faced any serious problem coming out of it? That is very, very 0.1%, even less than 0.1% of the total lifetime, right? The only problem that you will face from lead acid battery is sometimes if you don't use your lead acid battery for a long time, if you are keeping your vehicle and going to your hometown, after 1-2 months, if you come back to your hometown, if you see the vehicle will not start because your lead acid battery has completely drained the charge, right? Because the self discharge capability is very, very high. And these are kind of some of the problems which is coming from the lead acid battery, and those problems are to be arrested. But lead acid battery has 99.9% recyclability. That is a very, very important thing that Indians should note down. Indian researchers should note down. The academicians should note down. We should not spend so much of money on researching this lithium battery. Try to just spend few amount to improve the lead acid battery, and that is what companies like Tata Motors are doing it. The Tata Motors research and development team is not working more on lead acid batteries or lithium battery. They are much investing on lead acid battery, which is having almost all the benefits already. Whatever the negatives you told, weight. So now the question is how to reduce the weight of the lead acid battery. You told toxic, how to reduce the toxicity in the lead acid battery. So instead of using the lead-based electrode, shall we go for other some kind of composites? Shall we go for, instead of going for metal-based separator, can we go for different types of foam-based or lightweight separators? So all these ways, lead acid batteries can be improvised, and that is the way that Indian research should focus on, not only on the lithium. I am not telling you should not research on lithium ion, but I am telling you more importance should be given on something which is already well known in Indian technology, right? And I believe people would have understood that. So that's how battery things work. It's just an overview. It's just an overview, and even other areas also, there improvements are there in the battery technology. So lithium titanate and lithium cobalt, all this other batteries also getting improvised. Lithium air, you would have seen so much of news coming every day. So I don't want to tell you everything. You might be knowing floating news is coming. So the battery technology is improvising. Obviously, whichever the technology which is having the good characters, obviously it will pick up the market. So if this iron phosphate is something like that, it has good safety, it has good lifespan, good cost, good performance. So obviously it grabbed the market, right? It's now 85% of the whole market is with lithium ferrophosphate, right? And that's one of the safest batteries in the world. So that's how you can say compared to lithium titanate also it is very safer, but you say compared to them it is very cost, in terms of cost it is very cheaper, right? So those benefits we have to take into consideration. And other than the motor technology and the battery technology, so when you look at the power electronics technology, that is where the magic is happening, guys. The magic is happening in this particular power electronics technology only. So if you see the power electronics, you might be knowing the switching transistors. We are using it nowadays. So one is the MOSFET. We are using the MOSFETs everywhere. We are using the IGBTs everywhere, right? And end of the day, don't think, you say, if you are a mechanical engineer, if any mechanical engineers in this group, remember, it is because of your materials engineer, mechanical engineering core, the material engineering, because of which only these IGBTs are able to work. It is because of the material technology. So don't think IGBT is something topic which is not relevant for mechanical engineer. I am seeing many people not having, especially I am talking about the students who might be in the vast numbers here. Understand, if you are a mechanical and materials, if you are good in materials engineering, this particular area, the power electronics domain, has lot of requirement. How to reduce the how to create new materials, how to enhance the materials in terms of, so those materials which are used in this MOSFETs and IGBTs, what is the characteristic they need? Can any students here tell me which characteristic do you think an IGBT should have in terms of electric motor? Any answers, ma'am? If that is coming, kindly read it, ma'am.
Sure, sir. Sure, I will do.
Which parameter do you think is very important for IGBT when you are selecting a IGBT for a electric vehicle application? Can you guys put some points so that we will interact regarding that?
Sir, fast switching, turn on and off.
Okay, so what is the, so you want to switch it, turn on and off. So what is the parameter? Either it is shall I take it as time?
Yes. T on and off.
Correct. So on and off time, how quick I am able to on and off the particular circuit. Shall I take it like this? Yes. So if this is the requirement, if I want to turn on and off the circuit very fast, what is the requirement for the material used there? What do you think the material requirement? Say when I turn on and off as a particular switch, immediately the switching system will get heated up, right? And as frequently, more and more frequently, I am switching it on and off, it will be generating more and more heat. So the material which I am going to use in that area should be able to withstand that heat. Right, that is the very important requirement. So the material should be able to withstand that heat, and the material which I'm going to use in the power electronic system should be able to meet all these requirements. Right. So power electronics technology, now you are seeing silicon carbide. So now we are if you take few years back, silicon carbide was something seen in the journals. I have seen professors doing research in silicon carbide in journals, putting papers. But now today, Tesla has already launched their motors, launched their inverter with the silicon carbide based inverters, silicon carbide based IGBTs. So now the technology is no more in journal, it is already implemented. And similarly, if you take the gallium nitride, which is more advanced than silicon carbide. So the gallium nitride is also nowadays, you would have people in India, people are seeing it in the journals and research paper. But if you see in European countries, in US and European countries, in China, it is implemented in electric vehicle. Right, so these IGBTs, which is filled with gallium nitride based switching devices or silicon carbide based switching devices, these inverters can handle huge amount of heat. When they are able to handle huge amount of heat, then obviously the size of the component can be reduced so much, so the electric vehicle can operate with high power density. So when you are taking
Sir, Sai Sanjay has given high power handling capacity and Vishnuvardhan has given voltage rating.
Correct. That's what I said, ma'am. Power density. So how, even though I am a smaller component, how much power I can able to withstand. So that everything depends upon the materials, right? So material science engineers, if any mechanical engineers in this session, remember, you have an excellent opportunity on material science behind this, right? And based upon my research, I have seen there are some institutes in Germany and Japan. They have tied up together. There are many institutes, in Japan and Germany. They are working together to create innovative materials on the power electronics technology. Right, in India, it is happening with institutes like IIT. I have seen the institutes like IIT collaborating with other countries because of their support of the government. But even the private institutes start working. We should also try to get tie up with such institutions to end up good amount of the updated research in this area, right? So these technologies, what I mentioned, is no more in journals only. They are already implemented in technology, are being tested and validated in technology. So that is a one trend which is going, right? So you have a lot of opportunities in the power electronics side. So you have DC-DC converters. So you have so why DC-DC converter is there? Say for example, I told let me take a slide for that so that you people will understand. Is the screen is visible, ma'am? Like whatever I'm doing, is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. So I just checked it, ma'am. One moment. So I want to just put that particular slide so that people will understand the overall their roles in each component, right? So for example, when you take an electric vehicle, these are all the general components there, right, guys? So electric vehicle has a motor, battery, power electronics, and you have a high voltage distributor, because your battery is having somewhere around say 400-500 voltage in a car, electric car, right? So you have the headlamp, tail lamp. Those are all the accessories which needs just 12 volt. So I cannot take the 300 voltage, 400 voltage from this lithium battery pack and supply it to headlamp, tail lamp. So obviously I need some DC-DC converter, and to supply the DC-DC converter, I need a distributor. So there is a high voltage distributor. It is like your junction box what we use at our home, right? How your junction box gives the current power to your phone, your fan, fridge, washing machine. Similarly, in your electric vehicle, this high voltage distributor will distribute the power to the components, high voltage components, and also it will distribute to DC-DC converter, and the DC-DC converter will convert the high voltages like 400-500 voltage into 12 volt, 24 volt low voltage, and give it to the other accessories. Right, so this is what, guys, the power electronics is playing a huge role in the DC-DC converter, this high voltage distributor, these kind of power electronic inverters to run your motor, and your onboard charger. So onboard charger is basically, you might be knowing, it is a AC to DC converter, correct? So onboard charger means it is a AC to DC converter. So if you supply an AC supply for your electrical vehicle, your AC supply will be converted into DC supply, and it will be supplied to the battery pack of your car. So this is how the system works basically. So an electric vehicle has so much of components, and you can see, don't think this is an electrical field. Remember, electric motor, if you take electric motor, is nearly, if you ask me, electric motor is 85% designed by mechanical engineers. It is the mechanical engineer who is designing the electrical motors. And if you take battery pack has lot of casing, lot of material casing, lot of structural requirements. These are all mechanical engineer jobs, right? And if you see the power electronics, I told the IGBT's core, the power electronics, the core is the material of the IGBT. So those material science is coming under mechanical engineering. And if you say the electrical engineers are trying to bring it on the operational perspective, right? And when you see the compressor, you have some AC compressor and heater, positive thermal coefficient heaters. There are some heaters used on the battery, because our India temperature is something like this. We are having temperature, say, from 10 degree to 48 degree. In Tamil Nadu, you say, in Tamil Nadu, if you ask, we are having a temperature in Coimbatore, say 25 degree. And if you ask Chennai, Vellore, it goes to 48 degree, 45 degree, right? And if you take Delhi and all, Delhi reaches 50 degrees Celsius, right? And if you go to countries like Canada, Europe, they have minus 35, minus 40 degrees Celsius. So the temperature is on all extreme conditions. So you need a both heating system as well as cooling system. So thermal management is one of the area where electric vehicles has a opportunity. And this all these things, guys. So everything, when you take automobile, it has opportunity for all segment of people. The electric vehicle is not something which is only meant for one particular category of engineering. So it has huge amount of opportunities. So I would suggest, guys, to people, the students present here, be very active in LinkedIn, right? I am just showing one example here. So just I have some time, I believe, so I'll just show you guys, because students don't have much awareness, and nearly 0.1% of people are having the awareness about this LinkedIn. So I'll just show the example in LinkedIn how to search a job in regarding to electric vehicle. For example, let me put model based design. Let me put a term, model based design, electric vehicle, right? I am putting this term in LinkedIn. Let us see if we find any jobs relevant to this particular word. Jobs. Model based design means, you might be knowing, that means anything that you use, if you are using the MATLAB Simulink, you might be knowing, right? Say, for example, when I put it, immediately you are seeing a job from Bosch. If you are having a knowledge of model based design using MATLAB and Simulink, if you know what is auto electric vehicle, if you have the knowledge of minimum knowledge, you can see the jobs which is available in Bosch. You say Hinduja Group is something which is associated with Ashok Leyland, right? So those companies also having the requirement for model based design. So huge amount of opportunities are there. So when I put electric vehicle, you have so much of opportunities, guys. Like you can find enormous jobs floating nearly, you can say, but today itself near say 109 job opportunities are there. So some jobs are asking automotive engineers, some jobs are asking hardware design engineer. So many job opportunities are there in the electric vehicle. Even though the corona issue, all these things are there, opportunities are obviously there, but it is up to you how you are finding it, right? If you are active in Facebook, there is no use in Facebook. You cannot find everything related to your career, right? So students should focus. You should not waste your time on spending time on Facebook, and try to spend time on these kind of social networks, like the professional networks like LinkedIn and the Indeed, and so many websites are there. You can gain knowledge and try to find jobs and see the skill sets. So any job, there will be skills they will be mentioning. The skills are required are automotive electronics, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicle. These are all the skill sets they want, right? So even there is a company called Ola Electric Mobility. Ola has started a separate R&D for electric vehicle. So they are also recruiting now. You can see what they need. They need the knowledge on basic knowledge on CAN protocols. So they need the knowledge on electrical and electronic components of EV. They want the knowledge on IGBT, MOSFET and diodes. So, and they want the knowledge on converters. So these are all the things what we need actually, right? So generally, when you come to electric vehicle has a lot of segments, so much of segments to consider. So that is one thing we should note down. And so guys, I understood you would have come to know these are all the areas of electric vehicle, the trends which is going in. And let me put one important information with permission from ma'am. I am taking this. There are some faculty members present in this particular session. So for you guys, I am putting this announcement. So coming Saturday, I think 30, sorry, not this one. Let me take the right one. So coming Saturday, Sunday, we are having a session for faculty members. This session is dedicated only for faculty members and research scholars who want to know this session I have created only for faculty members who want to know what research I should do. So I have seen many people ask me, sir, I want to do PhD, but I don't know where to concentrate. Right. So I have created a dedicated session for PhD scholars and research scholars and faculty members, problem statement for research on electric and hybrid vehicle. So this Saturday and Sunday, 2 batches are there. Anyone interested, kindly register for this. The theme of this topic is electric drives and inverter. So today's session, I have given you an overview, right? Our trends and opportunities. And this session will be very in-depth. Very in-depth for faculty members, and if interested, you can reach us anytime, and you can reach ma'am also to know about the program. And for students, we have established a 5-day certification course. 5-day certification course. This 5-day certification course is only for students and recent graduates on 2019, 2020, 2018. So they can apply for this 5-day course. It is a certification course, and this covers all design calculation. And I can assure you, this particular training is the only training in India which gives you knowledge on all calculations involved in electric vehicle. So how to design an electric vehicle, doing HAL calculation, because guys, students remember when I was working in Mercedes, when I got a job, I remember still the interview. The guy who interviewed me, he asked me the question. He asked me to do a hand calculation. He asked me how to size the motor, how to size the battery, how to size the vehicle, right? That sizing is a very important parameter for a student like you. If you are a fresh student, fresh graduate, so that those are the very important sizing of electric drive train. So all the sizing calculations, India's first training, I would say, which is covering this sizing calculations for the students, and a whole electric vehicle design. Everything, every aspects will be covered, and it's a 5-day intensive certification program, and weekend and weekday batches also there. So I would just give the information to the students. Interested students, feel free to reach us. And so thank you guys for this opportunity. And let me put up the contact slide so that any queries, now I will start answering you all your queries. And this is my contact point. So my name is Prashant Kumar, as people introduce me. So I'm a automotive homologation consultant. So homologation, what is meant by homologation means, so any product, if I use a food product, I should know whether that food product is meeting all the standards, correct, regulations. So similarly, electric vehicle, if you say, not only electric vehicle, any if you say automobile, you have horn, you have light, you have headlamp, you have switches. All these components should be tested and certified. Then only the company can sell those products in the market. So remember, automotive homologation is the domain which, so I am making sure the companies, startup companies in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala, and Andhra Pradesh, to get their product developed as per the regulation, because understanding this regulation is quite a tough task. So it needs some knowledge and specialization to understand the standards, test methodologies. So that's what we are doing at Haritha Technologies. And this is our WhatsApp number. You can reach us anytime, and you can also reach our support team to this number. You can also reach by email. If any professional information you want to gain, reach us to this email. Feel free to reach us anytime, 24/7. We are available. Our company is, you can say, our company is 50% academic, 50% professional. So we do professional activities. At the same time, we give importance to academic activities also. Any good company in this world, if you see, they will do academic activity. Even if you say Panasonic, if you say Denso, any big companies, they will have an academic partner, academic side. Generally, good companies will obviously share their knowledge with academicians. That is one very important thing that obviously is from the moment Haritha Technologies was started, we are doing it. We are doing n number of programs. So if you are interested in any of these programs, feel free to reach us. We have special discounts for students who are doing bulk registrations. So try to use that opportunity. And
Yes,
thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
providing this opportunity, ma'am. And
Thank
let
you.
us have the questions.
Yes, of
Shoot
course.
me any questions. I will answer that.
Okay, sir. As already I was in the faculty one, sir, and I will forward the same to all my crew, and also interested students will reach you out surely, sir. Now,
Definitely, ma'am. Yes. So, guys, any question? Just you can float us. so that I will just use this next 15 minutes to answer those questions. And if anything is unanswered, definitely
Yes,
we will
yes,
reach.
sure. Sure, sir. Alexander sir has asked how to set up charging station, any specific procedure or whom else to contact?
Yes. So for this particular area, so a charging station, there is an authority called CEA, Central Electricity Authority, based out in Delhi. So anyone who want to first, if you are interested in establishing charging station, first thing that you might do is first you have to approach our Tamil Nadu TNEB. So Tamil Nadu TNEB, you have to approach, and also you visit the CEA, Central Electricity Authority website. In CEA website, there will be clear guidelines given by the central government. So those guidelines will tell you what are all the ways you have to follow, the procedures you have to follow in putting a charging station. And you have to approach the TNEB and Tamil Nadu's TNEB. If you ask me, they are not very active. They are not very active on the electric vehicle side. And better you can approach Central Electricity Authority. They will help you, sir, on that perspective.
Okay. Okay, sir. Darshini has given, if we buy e-vehicles, we need them to be charged. To charge them, whether charge stations are already installed in India or not.
Sir, Darshini, if you remember, I have told you very clearly, India is a market of two-wheeler. First thing. So when I am saying two-wheeler, your two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers comes with chargers, which is like which is something like your washing machine, which is something like your fridge, right? How we are using the conventional these kind of equipments at your home. Similarly, these chargers consume very less amount of power. So you don't need to take a external charging station. And however, the electric vehicles, what you meant, the electric vehicles, which is meant the two wheelers, what I'm meaning, these two wheelers will not have any problem of charging at home. They will take just very small amount of output power, and obviously you will not be reliant on the public charging. But when I'm saying cars, buses, they will be reliant on public charging. And for that, if say for example Ola is launching electric vehicle for all their fleet, Ola itself will make the charging station. There will be no, even government is also tying up with all the companies. And I clearly mentioned you, India is 10 years ahead of where China was. So we have to wait once the charging stations to pick up. But home charging stations for electric vehicle, even developed countries like Europe, they have 80% home charging only. And home charging station is very simple to take it. So it is not very difficult to implement. It is like your washing machine, iron box, how you are using. Similarly, your electric vehicle charger is very simple to use.
Okay, thank you, sir. Rakesh has asked whether lockdown has any effect on particular matter concentrations.
The particulate matter concentrations, yes.
Yes, sir, particulate.
Yes, definitely it was there, guys. So you might be knowing, since humans have not been outside, only animals were outside during this corona time. And obviously since people did not use the conventional vehicles, there was a huge change. Even the recently, just visit this WHO website. Very recently, they have put the India's, not only India, global green cover has improved. The amount of particulate matter has reduced, and obviously now the lockdown is removed, and obviously people will start mobility, and people will the system will things will happen once again. But because of this lockdown, temporarily the PM matters have reduced.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Aravindan sir has asked whether there is any number of charging points, more number of charging points required when compared to the petrol stations.
That's a good question. Say necessity is the mother of invention. So obviously, once there are more and more electric vehicles coming into the market in the car segment, for two-wheeler segment, as I mentioned, no public charging station is required. But if the car segment is increasing, then only people will get more interest. There are many people ready to invest in this, but they want market, right? So already there are some charging stations implemented. There are some Android applications. When you go to Google Play Store, just type, there is an application called Electrify. I will type that word in this particular slide. So there is a word called Electrify. So this there is an app called Electrify. This app, when you search in Google, you will come to know who are all implemented charging station. Say in Chennai also you have charging stations in Nandanam, you have charging stations in Gindi. So many places already charging stations are implemented. Don't think nothing is happening in Chennai. Already things are happening. Even in Coimbatore also there are many charging stations. So try to get updated with this application. This mobile application will tell you which area the charging station is there. In metro stations there are many things implemented.
Okay, thank you, sir. And a similar question, Priyadarshini Sidambaram is asking whether the charging station has to be built somewhere else distant away from petrol station, or the distance does not matter.
Yeah, the distance does not matter, because today there are some certain standards given by the government of India, especially the Central Electricity Authority. Even inside petrol bunk, you can keep charging stations, and there are safety guidelines. Say unless otherwise you are not following the safety guidelines, and if you are putting the charging station inside petrol bunk, if any fire happens, no one can answer this question. But there are safety guidelines given by the government of India, and even already petroleum agencies like Bharat Petroleum, agencies like Indian Oil, they have already started implementing charging stations inside petrol bunk, and there are safety precautions, safety measures, guidelines given, what are all the distance to be maintained from the petrol bunk, all these things are there. So obviously we can do it as per the regulation given by the government of India, Central Electricity Authority.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Vishnuvardhan Reddy is asking, you have said that EV engine has a higher efficiency than conventional one, but what is the comparison lifetime?
That's a good question, guys. And maybe, yes, I think that I cannot cover everything, right? So since I left the topic, so lifetime, that is a very important thing, guys. If you remember today's conventional vehicle has a warranty of say 1 year, 2 year maximum, and a kilometer of say, for example, 1 lakh kilometer, right? And today, and the serviceability, the first service starts for conventional vehicle from the can anyone tell me like from which month the first service start for a petrol vehicle? Can anyone tell me which month the first service starts? If you have a petrol diesel vehicle, the first service starts by which month? First 1,000 kilometers. I'm seeing the answer. Very good. Right, but when you say electric vehicle, for the first 1 year you don't need to worry about servicing, right? Even after 1 year, only if the service people inform you, if the company informs you, then only you need to go to the service station. You will get a message, because the whole electric vehicle is IoT monitored, so you don't need to worry about the vehicle issues. And when you take conventional vehicle, they have a very less lifetime. Electric vehicles, they are giving 10-year warranty. You would have seen in very recently Tata Motors launched their electric car which had 10 years warranty. 10 years warranty for the motor, 10 years warranty for the battery. Can you give me 10 years warranty for the engine? Can you give 10 years warranty for the engine what we use in the petrol diesel engine? Never ever they cannot give it, right? So today the electric motors what we are using in the electric vehicle, they have very high reliability that we are able to use. Can you imagine? Same thing, you can take an example of our washing machines what we use at our home. Our washing machines, you might be seeing that washing machines, your mom will be using it for the past 10-15 years, guys, right? Similarly, the electric motor, the motor technology has a huge reliability that you can use the motors for very long period of time. Say minimum 10 years warranty is provided by the manufacturers.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the answer. And we've been in Rahul Kishore. I think the questions are almost same. EV has a disadvantage of long charging time. How to address this limitation? What is the estimated time of charging the vehicle? Because most of the commuters used to travel by car to their native place, somewhat around more than 600 kilometers.
Yes. So, ma'am, actually, if you take this particular scenario, like, when you take the charging time, it's all dependent on this particular slide. So, what I showed you at the last, so power electronics, right? So this is what is the answer for it. So development in this particular technology, the power electronic system, is what if the power electronic technology is in a good way that it is able to withstand huge amount of heat, and then obviously I will be able to supply more charge in a very short span of time. And obviously already companies like Tesla and well developed companies, well developed countries already established this, and they are able to do fast charging in a very fraction of time. They are able to come they are able to get a 1,000-kilometer charge within 15 minutes, right, in Tesla. So I am not saying India cannot immediately reach that stage, but India, I told you very clearly, India's market is not passenger vehicle market. Even when you take two-wheeler market, it is very, very small, 7 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt. So two-wheelers have just 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 4 kilowatt, which does not need a very huge amount of time. And today the electric two-wheelers in the India, they are having 3 hours waiting time, charging time of 3 hours, right? And even this 3 hours will be reduced as much as more charging system technology is getting updated. These 3 hours will be converted to 2 hours, and then 1 hour, and then 15 minutes. So these things will change, but now it is developing. So in India, if you take Bangalore, there are many startup companies working upon charging high speed charging for two wheelers also. But when you do high speed charging, there are some difficulties associated with, let us say, lithium ion battery, because when you do high speed charging, there are some drop of lifetime and drop of performance and efficiency, which is also to be considered, right? But when you take lead acid battery, those issues will not be there. So lead acid battery is also one area where people are trying to improve the charging efficiency.
Thank you for the answer, sir. Sai Dinagaran is asking, like electric car and bike, is there any possibility making the aeroplane green?
Say already aeroplane in flights also, this electrification is not only happening in automobile, in our ground vehicle. The electrification is already happening in flights also. Already there are many flights running with means they are not completely electric flights, but they are partially electric flights, and there are some pure electric flights. In hybrid flights, what they do is for takeoff, for takeoff condition, for the initial takeoff condition, they use these motors to create the thrust, and that means the jet engines to create the thrust. And once they went for the high level, they use the motors only. So even in the flights also, they are already implemented, and it's happening.
Okay, thank you, sir. Darshini is asking, why did Tesla move to permanent magnet motor, leaving induction motor?
Yes. See, if you take the first scenario, when Tesla developed the vehicle with the induction motor, they were able to achieve, say, for example, 0 to 100 km/h acceleration in for example 3.6 seconds, 3.9 seconds, right? And when they are developing the next generation vehicle, they want to improve that 3.9 seconds, right? So if my vehicle is, say, this year 2020, I am creating a vehicle, and now I am getting 3.9 seconds to reach 0 to 100. And if I am developing a new vehicle for 2021, I will have a target of 3 seconds for 0 to 100. And after 2022, I will have a target of 2.5 seconds. So every year, the acceleration targets and the efficiency targets are being improved. And the overall watt hour per kilometer, that is a very, very important parameter in electric vehicle. The overall watt hour per kilometer, that particular word is very important. And that is also one target which Tesla had. And with the induction motor, they were not able to meet the highest efficiency, highest acceleration. And with the same Tesla also had a PMSM motor team who achieved these targets very easily without any difficulty. And that is why even though the company name is Tesla, they shifted their system to PMSM motor. But remember one thing, if they achieve the same thing with induction motor in the coming future, they will come back to induction motor. That's the thing. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Nadarajan is asking, will the electric vehicle have starting problem? If it is not started for a long time, will the battery drain in such a situation? What might be the solution in such case?
So that problem is not there in lead acid lithium ion battery. So that is what we call it as self discharge capability. So when you have an electric vehicle with the lithium ion battery, that is why Indian government is giving subsidy only for vehicle which is having lithium ion battery. Subsidy is not eligible for lead acid batteries, right? So the lithium-ion batteries will not have very high self-discharge, and obviously you will not require to, those problems will not come. So starting problem will not come for lithium-ion battery. But if it is a normal lead-acid battery, obviously this problem will come. And you can recharge the lead-acid battery. Once again, you have to take the battery outside and recharge it. But taking battery outside and recharging it in terms of car is very difficult. That is why people obviously go for a lithium-ion battery, which is giving all advantages. And one of the advantages, the self-discharge capability, which is very, very lesser. So the lithium-ion batteries can withstand the charge within themselves for a long period of time.
Thank you, sir. And I think this is the quite a good answer for Sai Dinakaran's next question. Why don't we use silicon batteries? It is more abundant. Okay, thank you. And Jyotika is asking another question. How many ways are there to charge a battery in EV? According to you, which is the best method?
Say, when you take currently, if you take the regulations provided by standards, say nothing, there can be so much of technologies, guys, in India, that means in the world, but Indian government has to identify certain technology. They have to tell that this is the technology which can be used in India. Then only we can say that is suitable. According to that regulations, in India there are two types of charging methods. One is DC charging and one is AC charging. And out of which the AC charging methodology is a slow charging methodology, and which is mostly suitable for Indian grids, because our Indian grids are not very they are very sensitive. If your charger, you would have seen at your home, if your fridge is having any problem, if your washing machine is having problem, your electricity will get cut off, because that problem should not go for the grid. Similarly, the charger, if there is any problem with the charger, it should not have any problem to the grid. Right? If the grid damages, even other homes also will lose the power. So the charging technology, which is right now the AC charging technology, has less impact on the system, on the grid side, whereas on the and at the same time, the charging system has many problems like power quality issues, the harmonic issues, and those things are to be considered. So considering those things, both the AC charging and DC charging, you have some certain requirements. Some EMI/EMC requirements, some total harmonic distortion requirements given in the standards. So we have to follow all those things and select the standard technology for your application. There is no specifically applicable, but right now it is AC and DC charging given by the regulations.
Thank you, sir. Jayalakshmi is very much worried about the cost of the charging. Is it lesser than the conventional vehicle or not?
Definitely it will be lesser. For example, I can give you a number now. If you are running a car, if you are running a petrol car, you need to spend nearly 4 rupees per kilometer. 4 rupees per kilometer for the car. And if it is electric vehicle, it is 75 paise, 0.75 rupees, 75 paise per kilometer for electric vehicle. And if you take a two-wheeler, it is if you take a three-wheeler, say let me take a commercial vehicle, say auto rickshaw. Our auto rickshaw drivers who are running with the petrol and diesel vehicle, they are spending 4 rupees to 3 rupees per kilometer, whereas 2 rupees per kilometer for auto rickshaws, whereas the electric autos will spend 50 paise per kilometer. 50 paise per kilometer. That is the very, very lowest rupees per kilometer which a system can give. So very, very cheaper system.
Thank you, sir. Sai Sanjay is asking, sir, we move to electric vehicles to reduce emission, but the electric energy required to charge the vehicles ultimately comes from thermal power plants by burning coal. Instead of burning the fuel in IC engine, we are burning equivalent quantity of coal in the power plant. So at the end, the emission is not regulated, right?
No, that's the question most 99% people ask me in any of the session. So always remember, guys, even the same problem is there in same problem was there in China. Right? You take the consideration, don't compare us with the US and Europe, but compare us with, countries like populated countries like China. Even those countries, even though what they have done is like, if you take India right now, 70 to 80% of the power generation is coming from coal only. I agree on that. Right? But even the same problem was there in other countries. Even China had the same problem, but now China has nearly reduced it to 60%, and they're reducing it less than 60% based on coal. So government of India has already started many schemes to implement the solar based charging, wind power based charging. And you would have seen Tamil Nadu is the state Tamil Nadu is the state compared to even Denmark. They have the highest wind energy generation. So Indian government is taking measures. We are doing a lot of steps to improvise the renewable energy sources, and unless until we reach the higher, more and more number of renewable energy sources, obviously I don't have the answer for your question, but obviously India is doing it. You go to the Indian government website, there are many schemes, and even I want to put this scheme. If you see, there was a scheme implemented in Kerala. Right now, actually, I am in Kerala, so I see that government of Kerala is actually coming to the people at home, and they are asking if they are interested to put a rooftop solar. Right, and even in this scheme is in Tamil Nadu also, in some areas it is there. So they are asking if you are interested to put rooftop solar at your home. Government will give investment. You have to pay government back with electricity only. Right, so such schemes are coming in India. High number of schemes are there, which reduces the amount of solar, means amount of coal generation and coal based electricity generation, and they are increasing the renewable based energy generation. And when you take the countries like Norway, Netherlands, Canada, these people are very, very reliant on electric vehicle because they have reduced the amount of coal based energy generation. And second thing is, so obviously, when you put up more and more renewable based energy generation, the electricity can be easily developed without in a pure form. So that is what we call it as well to wheel, right? Well to wheel efficiency, well to wheel cleanliness. So when you take petrol, well, generation also, we are taking the crude oil from the sea. We are polluting the environment. Huge pollution is happening. When you are using the petrol in the vehicle, also we are polluting the whole environment. But when you take electricity using renewable energy, if you are using it in the renewable energy, while the source also it will become clean, and on the sink also, that means on the vehicle also there is no emission. So obviously these problems will be getting arrested. So it is completely depend upon how much. So it's an individual. If you are taking this, you are putting this question, I will ask the question to you, whether you have put the solar station at your home. So it is the individual responsibility for everyone should start focusing on solar based electricity generation at your home. When this trend is coming, obviously you will have the green purely generated electricity for the electric vehicles.
Sir, thank you, sir. So many messages are coming even through WhatsApp because of their data pack got exhausted. They are left out and they just want to ask the questions so that it will be recorded. So I will collate all these questions and I will send to you mail, sir, because my students are eagerly expecting your answers. But now because of other request, shall we wind up the session, sir? Because so many questions are there, I will collate it and I will surely send it to you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prashant Kumar, sir, for
thank you all, guys.
Thank you for your informative presentation. We are always grateful for your time and the effort you have given for us. I appreciate that you have shared your complete research with this group in a fascinating way. There were several takeaways, and I am very happy to see that my students have interacted much with you. And now it's over to Pratiksha to propose a vote of thanks. Pratiksha?
Ma'am, also
Hello,
kindly get all the feedback also, ma'am. So
Sure.
that, yeah.
Sure. I would love to do it. Surely.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Is it audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma. It's audible. Now you can.
Yes, ma'am. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks in this webinar session. On behalf of the EEE department and the students, I extend a very hearty thanks to the speaker, Mr. Prashant Kumar, who blessed us with his presence and took out valuable time in spite of his busy schedule. The way you explained the topic is exemplary, sir. Thank you. I also wish to express my gratitude to our principal, Mohammad Junaid, for providing encouragement and support. I am very grateful to our HOD, Mrs. Geeta Ramdas, branch coordinator, Mr. Mahesh, and all the faculties who gave us an opportunity to participate in this webinar session. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my hearty thanks to my fellow mates and our department. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, sir. Prashant Kumar, sir. I'm Geeta speaking. Yeah, it was a wonderful session. It is quite unofficial talk. But it was a so wonderful session. And I too have some queries to discuss. I will convey through Kavita ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. You would have seen the contact details also, ma'am. So feel free to reach us to our email and
Yeah,
phone number.
sure, sir. Yeah,
Okay, no problem.
I will join the session that you are scheduled for the research scholars also, because it is
Sure.
very informative and it is very it is wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank
No
you, ma'am.
words
Thank
to
you.
express. No words to express.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
So
Thanks a lot.
wonderful session. I joined slightly late, so I started only from maybe I joined slightly late because of some other unexpected assignment. So
No problem, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks for
yeah,
thanks.
so wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. On behalf of management and principal, I extend our heartfelt thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ilakya, shall we stop the recording?